Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing my film wrap-up for the month of February. I've decided to start doing this instead of full-on reviews of films that I wanted to talk about, just because, one, I realized I watch way more films than I ever expected to. Two, I don't think that I do that great of a job of reviewing films, so I feel that doing a wrap-up and just giving a generalized feel of what I thought about it is better. And three, I don't think people are really interested in hearing my opinions, so I'll just do this, and if people watch it, that's great. If people don't, that's okay too. I'm not gonna tell what the films are about. I'll put links down below to its IMDb page, so you can click on that and find out what they are about. Because the first film I watched is Captain Phillips, starring Tom Hanks and Barkhad Abdi. I really loved the way that they presented this film. Just that it was very honest and authentic, and the fact that they didn't use a lot of music. Actually, I don't think they used any music except maybe towards the end at specific certain moments. But overall, there was really no music, and I think that really brought up the tension and the intensity of what was happening. I really loved Tom Hanks' acting. He is one of my favorite actors, and it was really an exciting experience seeing him just get so much into his role, to the point where I really thought he was Captain Phillips. And Barkhad Abdi, which I'm not really sure if he's a new actor or not, but if he did an amazing job also. They all did such an amazing job. Tom Hanks was powerful, Barkhad Abdi was powerful. I just was blown away by this film, so I gave it 5 stars. The second film I watched was The Butler, starring Forest Whitaker and Oprah Winfrey. We also saw a lot of other well-known and famous actors throughout the film playing pretty small roles, but having a huge impact on the way I saw the film. I felt like this film was being overhyped just because there were so many of these well-known actors, which was kind of the downfall for the film for me, because I felt like it didn't have that powerful emotional impact, because all I kept focusing on was the fact that there was all these actors, and I was trying to understand why they felt the need to put all of them in there. But the story itself was really beautiful and well done. I really liked how Forest Whitaker portrayed the butler, and the relationship between him and Oprah Winfrey was just really well done. Oprah Winfrey and Forest Whitaker, they did a great job, and I really enjoyed the story, but the ending of the film just left me wanting. I was expecting something more powerful and more poignant for the ending, but instead it was kind of a letdown. It was very anticlimactic for me. So I gave this one 4 stars. Then I watched The Lone Ranger, starring Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer, which I personally loved the film just because of the entertainment factor of it all. It was very entertaining, it was very funny, and Johnny Depp does such an amazing job playing a crazy, loony, funny character that I just couldn't get enough of that. I felt like also he overshadowed Armie Hammer just because he just always blows my mind away when he does these kind of roles. I watched it basically just for him, and he did not disappoint. Armie Hammer is an okay actor, I just didn't really care for him. He was pretty forgettable in this film, sad to say, especially since he played the Lone Ranger. And the story itself was pretty predictable, but I did think that the way they told the story through the older Tonto was unique and lent a hand to the enjoyability of the film. So I gave it 4 stars. All 3 of these films were reviewed in that one video that I did earlier the month I met, so you can check that out in the link below. The 4th film I watched is What Dreams May Come, starring Robin Williams, and I really enjoyed the story. I did feel it was kind of slow, but the way that they portrayed the story was so beautifully done. It was very unique in the way that it was like a dream or a theater play. It was just so unique and different than anything I've watched before. And Robin Williams' portrayal of his character was just wow. I never once felt that he was gonna make a joke or do his goofiness thing that I'm typically familiar with him doing. I just always have an issue when somebody who's typically a comedian goes into a more serious role, but For me, Robin Williams is able to do it so well that I never had major issues. The story was well done, although like I said, it was pretty slow, so I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I rewatched Sleeping with the Enemy, starring Julia Roberts. I watched this film when I was a kid, like I think I was like 10 or 14 years old, around that area in age. I remember thinking that it was really scary and all that, and rewatching it again for the first time since then, I had that same experience. It was thrilling, it was exciting, and it was scary. And Julia Roberts, oh my gosh, she blows my mind every time, and I really enjoyed rewatching this film. I did feel that the story could have been developed more. I thought that when she moved, that part could have been more developed, because I felt that it was rushed, and I really didn't understand why they felt the need to rush it. I know that a lot of people who create films feel that they need to constrain it to 2 hours, but if it was 3 hours, I would have still loved it. I think that if they had developed a little bit more, I would have enjoyed it and felt that the tension was being built up even more better. But I still give it 5 stars just because the acting and the story itself was overall really well done. Then I watched Anastasia all over again. This is one of my favorite childhood animated films. The story itself, beautiful and sweet and funny. I just can't get enough of how wonderful the story is. Then I tried to rewatch Across the Universe. I watched it all the way through the first time like 3 years ago, and I did not like it. I felt the story was too far-fetched, and there was just this craziness about it that I couldn't get behind. And trying to rewatch it the second time, I felt that same thing over again. I didn't even get a half hour in before I realized that I was not going to be able to finish it. I found myself drifting from the storyline, and although I love the Beatles songs, I just couldn't get through it. So I gave it 2 stars, and I will not be watching it again. Then I watched Princess Diaries, starring Anne Hathaway. This is one of her earlier roles, and although I did really enjoy the story, I found myself being really irritated with the love interest. I just felt that he had no right to be angry with her, and the story is pretty predictable. I know this is based off of the Princess Diaries series written by Meg Cabot, but I don't know if I'll ever read them just because I have my issues with Meg Cabot in general, so yeah, not really sure if that's gonna happen. But I did really enjoy this film. I love Anne Hathaway's acting. It's just wonderful to see how she's grown from this film to where she is now. The growth in her acting abilities and in her career in general is just really wonderful to see. So I give this one 4 stars. Then I watched the second Red film starring Bruce Willis. Although I really didn't think the first film hit me in the funny bone, this one did. It was hilarious, it was fun, it was predictable, but it was entertaining, which is what you should go into this film expecting. Just entertainment. Don't expect a very well done storyline or anything like that. No depth to it, basically. This is just a really wonderfully funny and actiony film that just makes me happy and makes me laugh. I gave this one 4 stars. The next film I watched was Hachi. It was a very heartwarming, touching story that brought tears to my eyes, especially towards the end. I just didn't really understand why they felt to take it from Japan and Americanize it, because the dog is Japanese, his owner is Japanese, and they lived in Japan. I just didn't understand that aspect of the film. It just took me by surprise when it was mentioned, that fact, and I was just like, what? That doesn't really make sense why they felt the need to do that. But I really did like the story and the film overall, and Richard Gere, you know, he always plays these heartwarming stories, and I just like him for it. So I gave it 4 stars. My brother wanted me to watch Taken with him, and although I had a very small interest in watching it, it was one of those films where, although I was interested possibly watching it, I knew that I was most likely never going to watch it, but since he asked me to watch it, I was like, yeah, might as well, since I am a little interested. I knew that I wasn't going to really like it, although I did enjoy the action and the drama. I just felt like everything came way too easily for this guy. I just couldn't get beyond that fact that everything happened way too easily. There was no moment where he had to backtrack or he hit a wall or anything like that, and I just felt like, yeah, right, I don't care if you're CIA or not. You're always gonna have some kind of issue, and there was never an issue. So the story itself actually went by way faster than expected, and although I really did like the story, it kept me into it. I just didn't really care for the way they handled it and the fact that everything came too easy. So I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I watched Speak, which is based off of the book Speak, written by Laurie Ann Helsing. I hope I said that right. I really loved the book, and the film did a great job in keeping with the atmosphere and the way that the story was told in the book. I felt it did justice. Although Kristen Stewart did play in this film, and I was very hesitant in watching this film because of that. I'm not really a fan of her. Actually, I'm not a fan of her at all. I just don't really like her acting ability. It's not good at all. I always feel like she's faking it, and I can't get beyond that fake exterior of hers when she's acting to enjoy her films. But because she's always typically depressed and everything, and in this film the character that she's playing is in a dark place herself, it played off pretty well. So, you know, I could go past her and look at the story and the way it was being told, and I really thought that they did a really good job, and so I gave it 4 stars. Then I watched The Eagle, starring Channing Tatum. I really like this film. The way they did the cinematography, it was so beautiful. The way they portrayed the scenes and everything, oh my gosh. And the music, beautiful. And just the way Channing Tatum played off the other actor who plays the slave was just, it was wonderful. It was wonderful to watch, and it kept me going all the way to the end. I really love films that grab me emotionally, not just enjoying the story, but if they can grab me at the heartstrings and just make me emotional, it's always going to get a high rating for me, and of course this film gets 5 stars. The next film I watched is Listen to Your Heart. It's a rewatch, and I'm not really sure how many people have heard or watched this film because I believe it's independent, and it's one of those films that hasn't been well spread out, I think, so I'm not really sure. And I really enjoyed watching this film. It makes me cry every time, and although it's pretty predictable, I guess you would say, or cliche or overdone or whatever, I'm not really sure what you would say, but I really enjoyed it, and it's my kind of film, so I give it 4 stars. I watched Cyberbully, and this is my second time watching it. I really like this film just because it has a great message, and it's very important for people to understand how words can affect people even behind a computer screen. But although I did like it, I felt that at times it felt very scripted, especially in the scene where she's in the group therapy. I felt that everything that they were saying it to kind of tell you. It wasn't like, I don't know, it felt forced and all that. I just wasn't really going for that, but overall I think it's something that people should watch and understand more about. So I gave it 4 stars. The last film that I watched this month is Love Surreal, and it's a pretty predictable romance, but I really enjoyed it. It was a very short film that made you happy and warm on the inside, so I gave it 4 stars. Now I'm going to be doing the same thing that I do with my book wrap-ups, where I tell what my least and most favorite film of the month is. So my least favorite would be Across the Universe, and my most favorite would have to be absolutely positively be Captain Phillips. Down below, tell me what you thought of any of these films, if you've watched them, or if any of these are interesting to you. I would love to have a chance to talk with you all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.